Hi, I'm Erin, and this is Our Wyoming Life.
Planting season begins on the ranch. Tomatoes are the first crop to go in the ground for summer season. The soil and the tunnel have been prepped, and Erin has gathered all of her other supplies and soil amendments, so she's ready to dig. Hopefully, we'll be picking our first tomatoes for market by the end of July.
Today, all the prep and work we've done with the tomatoes since February finally pays off. I'm ready to plant. I've gathered all my supplies and brought tomatoes up from the basement. I need bone meal, oyster shells, and egg shells for each hole. I also need a hand tool to dig and a 15-inch stick that I use to measure distance between the holes. Scissors to cut the landscape fabric and a jug of water are also on the list of needed supplies. Before I dig the first hole, I turn the drip irrigation on so that the soil gets nice and wet. Now it's time to go to work. I always work on 3 holes at a time. I can easily reach 3 holes without having to move myself and all of my stuff. I cut an X in the fabric, measure, and repeat. Then I dig. I will be using a trench method for planting. This just means instead of digging a large deep hole, I dig a trench about 4 inches deep and lay the tomato in it. The root ball will actually go completely underneath the landscape fabric and not where I actually cut the hole. Each trench gets bone meal, oyster shells, and some lightly crushed eggshells. The bone meal is high in phosphorus, has some nitrogen, and a good amount of calcium. Oyster and eggshells also have calcium. Lack of calcium is the main cause of blossom end rot. There's nothing more disappointing than picking a ripe red tomato and then turning it over to see the bottom has turned black and rotted. With adding calcium to the soil and proper watering, this problem can be easily avoided. We've talked before about how tomatoes are a vine and they will rot anywhere that they are covered with dirt. I'm going to trim the bottom sets of leaves. I really only need 2 to 3 leaves above ground. Gently place the tomato into the trench and bend the stem at the top so that the leaves are above ground. I cover the trench with dirt and then lightly pack the dirt around the tomato. Lastly, a few more oyster shells go next to the drip line. When the water runs, they will get wet and their nutrients will get released down into the soil. I repeat the whole process until 203 tomatoes are in the ground. The trench method is what I prefer for planting tomatoes. I personally dislike digging really deep holes, and with the landscape fabric, it can be a bit of a pain. We're still not past our last frost date, so I'm going to place hoops every 8 feet. About 25 water bottles go into each row, and then every evening the tomatoes will get covered with the frost protection row cover. We have about a month until we are out of the woods with frost. Over the next few weeks, I will make sure that the plants are getting plenty of water while they are developing their new roots. It's a guarantee that some of these are just not going to make it, so I save plenty of extra seedlings so I can replace any of them that die. I've done everything that I can to ensure that I will have an abundant tomato crop this year. It's hard to believe now, but by the end of the summer, this whole high tunnel is going to be a wall of green tomatoes. Last year we produced about 1,500 pounds. I always hope for a better harvest every year, so maybe this year we'll push into that 2,000 pound mark or more. I'm sure I'm going to encounter problems along the way this summer, but I always say you have to be an optimist in order to be a gardener. This year could potentially be the best ever. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. We're now also on Instagram. I've been told that all the cool kids are on Instagram, so we hopped on board. Thanks for joining me in Our Wyoming Life.